Today, let's find out if you're strong enough to do the ring strict muscle up. Let's do a quick test and then we'll find out exactly what you need to do to fill the gaps. So test number 1, can you jump up above the rings and hold in a ring support? So this top support position with control. Ideally be able to hold here for time, hold a conversation. Can you go into the bottom of a dip? Also hold here with control, nice and deep. And then the biggie, can you push back out of that deep dip position with, again, strength and control. Next, can we go for a transition slowly and hold this top of the chin up position? Hard to do this one and talk, but we need to be able to do that with control and then come all the way down nice and slow. Now, if you can't do that, if you're missing gaps, what do we need to do? So let's first look at that top support position. So hanging out there with the arms pushed into our side, ideally our chest open and our shoulders back and down. If we can't do it against the rings, we need to make it easier. And the easiest way to make it easier is to use static bars. Straight away, these are going to be way more easier to control. They can still push out and still move around, but nothing like the rings. So we need to mimic that same position. We want the bars super close to our body. So in that position, we want to push down as hard as we can. We need to open the chest, bring the shoulders back and down, see if we can hold that with control. We don't want to look like this. We don't want to be in this sunken down position. We want to hold up with control. If you can't do that, we need to make it easier. We could put our toes down, still mimicking the position. I don't have much weight in my toes, but that's just giving me enough so I don't do that collapsing. We want to get this up to at least a 30-second hold, and then do the same thing on the rings, see if we can get up to that 30-second mark. If we need to on here, we can use things like band assist. So we just grab a band and put that between the rings. We can thread it through on one side and then just hold it with the other side. And then when we get into the position, this is actually too high, but let's work with that. So jump into that position. Normally you'd be on the floor and not doing all this with your feet. And no, this is not going to work. Okay, we got it. Okay, both feet in like that. So now when the band is actually pulling the rings together, and it's also supporting me a little bit to give me a little bit more upward movement so I don't collapse so much. But aiming to try and get your arms into your side, like I say, 30-second hold. If you are doing that one, have the rings down here somewhere. You can obviously do the toe assist as well, but I wouldn't start playing around on the rings too much until you can get a solid one on the bars. Exactly the same with that bottom position, that deep dip position. Now we're on the rings, we want to make sure that the ring is actually touching our shoulder or our bicep, meaning that we're super deep. If we're on the bars, it wants to be really down here in that position. Again, being able to hold this for 20, 30 seconds, and then eventually move it over onto the ring. So we can do exactly the same with the bands if we need to. We just need to accumulate that time, get strong in that bottom position, and then work the dips. So going between those two movements. So the top support, the deep bottom position. So working things like eccentrics, all the way down, hold at the bottom, use your toes to get them back up, until we can do at least 3 to 5 strong repetitions on the bars, and then move that across, do exactly the same on the rings. Next, let's look at that top of that chin up position. So I've got false grip position, and I've got the chest touching the rings or the hands. This doesn't work if we have a gap here. So if we're in this position, there's no way I can transition over the top. So I need to be able to hold here for time and control. Now it's possible to have 2 gaps with this one. We might not have a strong enough chin up, so I might not be able to pull high enough. And also I might not have conditioning or strength in my false grip position. Because having this height, this chin up lock off position is fantastic, but unless you can actually get the hand on top of the ring, you're not going to be able to do the false grip strict version of the muscle up. So we need to condition both of those things. If you don't have the chin up, I'll be working 2 things. I'll be working on that chin up with holds at the top, with light toe assist, slow eccentrics, going all the way down, maybe jumping back up, and then slowly coming back down again, spending lots of time in the top position and the slow eccentrics. You can play with partial ranges. Basically, you're just going to fill that chin up pathway with lots of strength. And then we need to start to strengthen the false grip position. Now, the easiest way to strengthen the false grip position is 1, working on flexibility. So doing things like making a really tight fist, put the knuckles together, place the knuckles on the floor against the wall, and then just try and straighten the arms as best you can without the hand opening up. Then we need to condition the strength. Most people aren't going to be able to hang in that false grip position and hold there until they build some conditioning there. So to start with, rows is a really good place to go. So with the false grip row, we have the rings down a little bit lower. I'm going to get into a false grip position so I have contact with the ring here. That means that I can have my hand above the ring, but my elbow and my body underneath the ring. I can constantly push down, and that's how I do the muscle up, the false grip version. So make sure you can hold like that. You can practice that on your steering wheel in your car. Do it with both hands, turn them, bring the chest to touch. So you can mimic that position there. And then I'm just going to stand up into the standard row position. So chest touching, I come down, I turn out when I need to help me with the flexibility, and then I pull all the way back up to that position. Now each repetition I need to make sure that I'm maintaining this and I'm not slipping off. If you're slipping off, you need to stop, get back that false grip position again, and then go again for repetitions. It will feel horrible, you might even rip the skin there. What I recommend if you do start to rip is tape up after you've ripped, and then when you do it again, as you start to rip or just before, then tape up. We want to slowly condition this so you have a callus there. If we always put tape on, you never build up that callus. Then you're working on your chin up strength, you're working on your false grip strength with the rows, you're working on your false grip flexibility, you're working on your dips, and then the final part is the transition, the most complicated part, because it's not something we normally train. So we need to understand that pathway through lots of repetitions. First, we don't want to make it too intense, so we're going to have toes on the floor. We want to make sure that the buckles are out of the way, so we're not going to cut into our arms as we do lots of reps here. I'm going to set these up at a height where I can just get into the bottom of the dip, that deep dip position that we've been training with our dips. So now my bicep and shoulder is touching the ring, I'm pulling it into my side, and then as I transition, watch what happens to the hands, what happens to the chest. I'm going to keep that open now, and then I go into the top of the chin up, that top position we've been practicing. So I know with this position now, and I can go from that back into that bottom of that deep dip, and vice versa, keep going between the two. Now notice that my hands are staying in contact with my chest the whole time. So I'm tracing the line of the pecs with the thumbs. I'm going all the way to the top of the chin up, and I'm going all the way to the bottom of the dip. Now what I don't want to do is do this and come around, because that's not going to happen when I actually do the real thing. I'm going to come up underneath the ring, and then I'm going to have to snake around to get to the bottom of the dip and push out. Now once we've done enough transitions, we've filled those gaps with the dips, we've filled those gaps with the chin-ups and the false grip conditioning, we're ready to start working the eccentrics and movements like yo-yos. So for the eccentric, it will be starting in the top position, right up here, maybe create a little bit more clearance, you're not smashing your head against the wall, and then I'm going to come down to the bottom of the dip, transition through, top of the chin up, and then slowly down. Now we want to be doing that with no gaps. If we find that we drop through that, we could have a box here and put our toes on the box. We just want to make sure that we're getting good time and attention through that whole range of motion. Then as we get closer to the real thing, we can start to do yo-yos. So we come down to a certain distance and then we go back up again. And obviously the deeper you go down and come back up, the harder it's going to be, the closer it is to the real thing. If you actually take the elbow below the hand, a lot of people argue, including me, that that's harder than actually doing a muscle up, because a muscle up is using momentum all the way through. Going down, changing direction and go back up is probably harder. So a yo-yo is a really good drill, but bear in mind that if you go deep enough, it's going to be really hard. So again, you would start in that top position, come down, just go a little bit down, and then go back up. Now there are other drills you can play with in terms of getting toe assist or band assist, or have someone spot you. But in terms of strength, the movements I've just been through are the ones that I would concentrate on. If you're after a program for muscle up or any other calisthenic or handstand skills, check out my app, or I offer online coaching. Check out the website, www.paultwyman.com.au. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions, and I'll speak to you in the next one.